This project started 5 years ago through the vision of John Lucas and Richard Anderson, who really were motivated by a desire to do something. And throughout that time, I myself, Leng Nou, and Frank Plouffe and Eric Kane came along in various stages and capacities, and we were always essentially keeping in mind three central questions around homelessness, and that framed and really guided our efforts with this project. It was, who are our homeless? How does a community respond to homelessness? And what are ways in which we can help? So the movie the project spanned 5 years. So within those 5 years, the organizations and agencies that we spoke with, had updates, most of them personnel. So what you see, faces may have moved on, but because the mission and the work of the organizations were the same, we decided to keep the footage as original as when we shot it. So I want to thank our partner in this project, the Modesto Peace Life Center. We want to also thank the generous donors who were able to help us in securing this wonderful venue. And I think it says a lot when a lot of our donors were actually previous attendees, so they really wanted to create this opportunity for you all to see it and learn from it as well. So we have Wolden, who is a member of the homeless community. He'll give us his perspective. We have Supervisor Terry Withrow, who is the co-founder of the Focus on Prevention effort that we heard so much about on the video. We have Sergeant Mike Hammond of the Modesto Police Department, who is with the Heart Unit specifically. We have Esther Rosas from Esther, you are from Community Housing and Shelter Services, and we did not talk to Esther on the video, and tonight is actually a fundraiser for their organization, so we'll be excited to learn more about them. And then Barbara Atkin-Krauss from the Stanislaus Regional Housing Authority, so very excited. Before we get into the discussion, I want to share some exciting updates from our last community screening. So our call to action, the way we ended the evening was kind of a call to action because the third objective of our film was how can we help? And on that panel was Christy Ayu, council member Christy Ayu, who we saw, and also a member of the homeless community. And she had offered a job to David Fuller. And so David, are you still in the audience somewhere? Okay, David's here. So David's been gainfully employed for about a month now, and he had previously, and then something really powerful. So a local dentist, Dr. Akri, who and his wife, also Bonnie, owns the ice cream company. It's a restaurant. And they drove home that night after the movie screening, and they were talking about ways in which they can help. And I have permission from Dr. Akri to share his reflections with us. So this film reminded me that my faith goes beyond profit. We are all faced with the reality of what is happening to real people in our community and trying to figure out the problem and how to fix it. So that evening was one of the things that changed my perspective and allowed me to see the restaurant through Bonnie's eyes. Bonnie had always wanted to help people through their restaurant. So I began to see our business as something we could use to help our community. At the showing, I knew that we couldn't just ignore the problems that we all see in Modesto, and that there were many others looking for solutions. We just weren't sure how we could contribute. Now we have a vision and an opportunity to be a part of something bigger. We're excited to join with others to make an impact on our community. So they are in the development stages of opening up their restaurant to be kind of like a workplace training program for those who are experiencing homelessness. Exciting stuff. So pretty powerful, impactful stuff happens. No pressure for this panel though. Okay, so I'd like to start off with a question that I had last time. So we had 5 years to chronicle how our community responds to homelessness, and through that time we were able to see a lot of the efforts around care, heart, low barrier shelter, that conversation. So can anyone on the panel speak to where we are 5 years from now with everything that's in place around the issue of homelessness.
Yeah, I'll give that a shot here. First of all, thank you all for being here. I'm glad everybody was here tonight. It's good to see this, a good crowd here. So we have put a lot of time into a lot of things here in the county towards homelessness over the last three to 4 years. And we saw some of them on the film today. You know, the outreach and engagement team that we have out there, our access center over there by the old jail. We have our care team, which is out there now, which Mike was a big part of that, and which is a team made up of individuals out there actually looking for the most acute people with the most acute problems that are on the street, the ones with the most acute drug, alcohol, or severe mental illness. And we actually have come up with a list of names. We all sat around, the care team was put together, and we all sat around for about 90 days, and with a lot of people in the room who deal with the people on the streets, the homeless population, and we came up with a list that everybody seemed to deal with, and we compared the list, and it was the same people on everyone's list. We came up with a list of about 150 people, specific names of individuals that we knew had severe drug and alcohol, mental health issues, or all of the above. And we've sent this care team now out to find these people and to figure out what to do, how to get them off the streets. Most of them were falling through the cracks and were getting arrested, sent to the doctor's hospital, then sent to the doctor's behavioral health center, 72-hour hold, release, then they'd be out on the streets for a little bit, arrested again, just going through this vicious circle. So we put together this care team. It's been up and running about a month now, I think. And actually, unfortunately, we had 150 people on the list to begin with. And by the time we finished the 90 days, 7 of them have died, just while we were trying to put the team together. So we're out there. That's another thing. So we have our outreach engagement team. We have our care team. We have we're about to start a thing called Downtown Streets Team, which is a program that really came out of Palo Alto that we're going to bring here that will actually employ homeless people who are on the streets, actually allow them to work in our community and clean streets, clean alleys, all kinds of things that it's just a gradual program that we hope they start with this program and work their way up and out of homelessness. We have that coming. So just to kind of list a lot of the things. And lastly, which is what we need more than anything, as we talk about all these different outreach and engagement team, our care team, between those two, there's about 25 people who are out on the streets every day working with the homeless, trying to help these people. But without housing, that's our bottleneck. That's where all of these programs will fail. And can talk about that. And we realize we can be as successful as we can be with all these programs in reaching people, but without the housing, we're nowhere. We might as well not even be doing this if we don't have any place to put anybody. And it comes down, especially with our care team. Sorry, I don't know how long I'm going to talk. I can talk for 2 hours on this stuff. I've lived it. My wife has lived it with me for the last few years as we try to do something. Our whole community has lived this. I realize it. And with our care team, we realize that there is a very small window sometimes when you get someone to say they've hit rock bottom and yes, I need help. I need your help right now. When that happens, when Mike's out there and that happens, when our care team's out there and that happens, we have to have a spot for those people to go right then. Because that window is so short, they could come back an hour later, and if it's someone who has a drug problem, they get their fix, they don't need help anymore. Whatever the case may be, the window's gone. You miss an opportunity to save somebody's life. And I can tell you, people with drug and alcohol problems, there are people on our outreach and engagement team, there are people out there working in our community with the homeless population who have drug and alcohol problems, who were former homeless people themselves, former heroin addicts. And I can tell you, if we can get to those people, we can get them off the streets and we can restore their lives again. We can get them back into the community. And we have so many that are actually out in our community trying to help others who were in their shoes one day. So the housing element, the housing part of it is critical. And so just the last thing, the question is, where are we going to be in 5 years? I'll get there. Sorry. In 5 years, I hope that we will have the housing. We will have a low barrier shelter. We are doing everything we can to get a low barrier shelter open right now. We've had a couple of disappointing moments when we had a couple ideas that we thought were going to work, and they were shot down for whatever reason. And our most recent one is the old Scenic Hospital, and we still think there's an opportunity for that there. But a lot of the good ideas are coming forward now, and so in 5 years from now, I see us with hopefully we have housing, we have people off the streets, we continue to have the services that we have, and through our whole focus on prevention, we hopefully, as we work getting those people off the streets and helping them, getting them into services, people with severe mental illness, getting them off the streets maybe permanently. Some of them need to be conserved. There's a need for us to be able to conserve people who can't take care of themselves, and because of the conservatorship laws, it's so hard to put somebody in a conservatorship right now, and they say that's inhumane to lock somebody in a facility, but I say it's inhumane for someone to lay in their own feces on the sidewalk as we all walk by because they can't take care of themselves. That's more inhumane. Yeah. So I see that we have more conservatorships for people and housing, and we will have more houses and people off the streets, and then as we continue with our focus on prevention, we will be getting to these kids and getting involved in families' lives to hopefully prevent people from someday becoming homeless. So.
Great, thank you. Thank you. I'm curious from the service providers in terms of the complementary services, a focus on prevention in terms of getting diverse stakeholders to the table, but also the challenges that you see because you're on the front lines. Is it going to be enough, within the next 5 years to even help you in the service deliveries that you are responsible for?
Hi, I'm Barbara Kess from the Housing Authority. Right now, the Housing Authority Section 8 list is what we're mostly known for. And just to give you some perspective, that list has primarily been closed since 2010. That's because of the housing need and demand, and we still have thousands of families on the list. So if anyone needs a kind of a rude awakening as to the housing need in our community and how long it's been here, it hasn't happened overnight. It's been here quite a while. Right now, the Housing Authority serves approximately 618 persons who were homeless that are no longer homeless through our various programs that use that of foster care, veterans, special needs, mental health, a lot of that. And right now we have 58 units in development for homeless, and we have about 300 units in development for low-income to moderate-income families. And that's just a drop in the bucket. In 5 years, we've been doing strategic planning. I'm not sure that everybody's familiar with this, but the Housing Authority of Stanislaus is now regional. That means we're responsible for 8 counties. And right now, we serve probably about 7,000 households. We serve anywhere from 42 to 4,600 voucher holders. We have about 750 units. We run the Riverbank Housing Authority, and we're building just as fast as we can build. I think Supervisor Withrow hit it though. Even with our voucher program, somebody may wait on the list for 4, 5, 6 years, and they finally get that golden ticket, a voucher, and they go out, and there's nothing that they can rent. Can you imagine the discouragement of that for families that have been couch surfing, living in their cars, doubled up? And then sometimes they get frustrated and they do things that are bad judgment, and then it gets them in trouble to maybe it puts them in danger of not getting a voucher or not getting services. So this is an immediate need, but it's a need for not just the transitional and the homeless services, but we need housing opportunities all the way along so people can enter into them before they crash and hit the bottom. So we need homeless housing, we need low-income housing, we need moderate housing, we need housing for the first-time home buyer, and we need a healthy housing community. So in response to that, the Housing Authority has developed a micro-development program that starts with small homes of 560 square feet and goes all the way up to home ownership, and now we're looking at micro-communities so that we can house people all along the way. With the small houses, I want to tell you a feel-good story because we don't get very many in our business. We piloted a veterans project thanks to the city, and now the county is following suit with funding. We just started with 4 units, 4 small houses. We asked the planning department what's the smallest house that we can do where we don't need any waivers or hearings or conditional processes or anything like that. So we worked with them and finally came up with these units, and they're one-bedroom units. We piloted them, and they're subsidized. They're just 4 small units. We admitted their first 4 clients, and within 6 months, one of our veterans who had been on the street for years and years, as a matter of fact, he was so afraid that he wouldn't get into that unit that he parked his truck in the parking lot the week before it opened and acted as the guard to make sure nobody vandalized those little houses. His veterans, by working with our VASH Veterans Program, we serve over 200 veterans. We bring in veterans every Tuesday. Within 6 months of case management, getting stabilized, his VA pensions caught up with him, and he did stabilize, and he purchased a home. But then he came back and we said, okay, you can get your deposit back. And he said, no, I want to leave my deposit for the next veteran. So please understand that our network of homeless families and homeless people are helping each other. They're almost our biggest network. I'm probably taking up too much time, but I want you to know that, not only is the Housing Authority in, but the community's in at every step of the way. And the biggest thing we can do is have the discussion, but we have to have housing to put people in. Because if you want to buy food and keep it in the refrigerator so you can get it cheaper, because, shopping at the 7-Eleven isn't going to cut it. And if you want kids to stay in school, if you want our veterans to get their pensions, if you want our mental health people to keep, their medicines and their case management, they need a stable house to live in, regardless of whether it's small or large. And so in all of that to say is, I couldn't agree with you more. We have to have the housing.
Great, thank you for that perspective. Esther, would you like to add something?
Hello, my name is Esther Rosas, and I'm with Community Housing and Shelter Services. I'm the director of the agency, and I agree as well. We do need affordable housing, and a lot of it. Last year, with our fiscal year, we saw 1,290 homeless families. The majority of them, 59% of them, had minor children under the age of 5. So there are a lot of families that need housing. We, because of the lack of affordable housing and housing just in general, we were only able to house 214 families. We would love for our numbers to be higher. We just, the lack of housing, we need it. We provide case management to our families, and we provide ongoing services once they're housed to ensure that they maintain housing. So our agency is a firm believer that once you get someone housed, that we need to be able to be out there and provide case management services to allow them, to give them the resources and tools to help them maintain housing so that they don't become homeless again. We also have a rental assistance program, and last year we were able to house 65 families who were at risk of becoming homeless and who were homeless as well. And we have a permanent housing program that we assisted a total of 23 families with permanent housing. They were all homeless prior to entry. Some of them have been homeless for 3 years. Some of them were homeless for a couple of months. So with our agency, we do our best to try to help as many families that we can, and it's not for the lack of our clients trying. There's just not the affordable housing out there.
Yeah, that's in dire need, and I think everyone here would agree that the housing ideal scenario is affordable housing, and that housing spectrum, shelter spectrum, is just so wide. To that point, Beardburg Park has been at the top of people's minds in terms of a place for people who are experiencing homelessness to seek shelter. So Mike, can you speak about how the Ninth Circuit ruling regarding public encampment has affected us here locally?
Good evening, Mike Hammond, the supervisor of the Beat Health Unit. The Beat Health Unit is a proactive unit to address nuisance problems. So part of that is the about a year and a half ago, we created a HEART team, which is a homeless engagement and response team. And that comprised of a Modesto police officer, Officer Todd Musto, and a Modesto firefighter, Josh Houseman. And so through, up until this point, through enforcement, we've contacted a lot of this population. And so, so their job was to go out and contact this population, try to figure out what their ailments were, whether it was medical issues, mental issues, drug addiction, or a combination of all three, and try to connect them to resources. And at that time, we really didn't have a good relationship with, or good communication with other organizations, whether it was mental health or rehab or stuff like that. So we were able to start connecting with outreach and engagement, and telling them, hey, this is who we have, rather than writing them citations and taking them to jail. Can we try to get them in some kind of program? Can we try to find other ways to get this person back on track, where somewhere down the line they seem to get off track? So that really started the partnership with the HEART team and outreach and engagement. And that has kind of evolved into the CARE team, or the CARE initiative. So the HEART team is it's kind of defunct now. Some of you may have seen the car before. We had a half police car, half firefighter car. That is not out there anymore. But the population that we are involved with, they know Officer Todd Musto and Houseman and the rest of the CARE team that are here today. So thank you for being here. So having said that, our job as law enforcement, being that we have a relationship with this population already, we go out with the CARE team, and we go out as a team and try to assess their issues, wants, and needs, and see how we get them back on track, like I said. So through enforcement, the Ninth Circuit has recently said basically that cities cannot enforce the illegal camping laws or curfew laws on public lands if there's no room for them available. So we stopped, we paused our enforcement for a while to kind of see what that meant to us legally. So we talked to our city attorneys and the DAs and everybody involved there, decision makers. And after about 2 weeks, you started seeing a lot of camps popping up in tents throughout the city. And so that caused for concern for the community. And so once we got word and understanding of what that meant, that's when our city leaders, such as Chief Carroll and Joe Lopez, made the decision to open up Beerbrook Park to allow a place for them to store their property, have campsites, without the police department doing those municipal code violations. So that's where we're at right now.
Okay, thank you for that update. So our first question is over here.
Yes, my name is Leroy Aikenberger. My question is, do you have a sense of how many of the homeless are permanently coming out of homelessness, utilizing the community resources that are currently in existence here?
I don't have exact numbers for you, but I can tell you that between the CARE team and outreach engagement, we have several success stories over the past year of housing people from this population, whether it includes rehabilitation, whether it includes getting them funding for Social Security, which they couldn't get before, whether it's a veteran that had some other than honorable discharge. We're working with Veterans Affairs to overturn that discharge and actually get them funding, and because they're a veteran, they get priority housing. So we do have several success stories, but I don't have hard numbers for you right now.
And I'm going to just jump in there. We're gathering data, because the key to this whole thing is it doesn't do us any good to put programs in place if we can't measure if we're successful or not. And so now we are gathering data. The homeless information system, I think, is a program now that we're starting to input all the information that we have on people and starting to track people, and we are starting to gather data to gather these success stories, because we've got to be able to make corrections, right? We put things in place, we put a program in place. We started this off by saying, what does success look like? That was our beginning. We kind of went at this kind of backwards. We said, what does success look like? How do we measure if successful? And then from there we put in place strategies to try to achieve that. So we have to be nimble through this whole thing. And as we put programs in place and we try things, if they're not working, we need to have the data to show that it's not working, and be able to drop it and move on to something else. Or if it's successful, we'll throw more resources towards it. So data is the key to success.
Great, thank you. We do have Carl on the panel. So Carl, maybe you can speak directly to how effective are some of the community services?
Well, lately, when I first started being homeless, there was nothing out there. Then, slowly and surely, there was people that came in and wanted to know what the circumstances was to being homeless, what made us be there. And they asked a lot of questions, and I gave them the answers of what I know, what I went through. And a lot of people in the parks don't have anybody to hear, because they're afraid of law, afraid of anybody that's, upright and homely, because they feel they're so down on themselves that they can never lift their head up high enough to talk to somebody. So I kind of felt that now there's a lot of units out there that they're doing something. They're asking their questions, and they're actually meaning to get us help. And that's what I've seen is some help.
Sounds like it's a positive direction then. Great, thank you. Do we have another question? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Bert Lippert, and I read recently that in San Francisco, the cost of a homeless person is $33,000 a year. And there's 7,500 people that are homeless in San Francisco, so it's costing them $250 million to take care of these people. So when they ask the question, where do you see it in 5 years, my question is, what programs do we, well, what they're doing now is, they're subsidizing people who are starting to fall through the cracks. People, because they have a fixed income and the rents are going up and they can no longer afford the rent and their utilities or groceries. And so San Francisco is starting to make up the difference to keep these people from becoming homeless. Do we have anything planned like that for here to keep people from falling through and becoming homeless? We're working on rehabilitating them and getting them up. But do we have any ideas or thoughts on how to keep people who are in housing, who have fallen on hard times, and face foreclosure or face losing their place when they just need a hand at this time and maybe they can make it? So that's my question.
So, Bert, I think we have a lot of social services that are out there. The whole thing is about that we're working with people who are homeless or people who are at risk of becoming homeless, just what you're talking about. And we have a wide array of social services that deal with just that. There's two sides to this. When you start to quantify it, and I'm an accountant, so this is fun stuff for me when you get the numbers, but when you start to quantify the cost, and when you look at it like that, how much we're spending, say how much we're spending in San Francisco per person who's homeless. We have a finite number of people who are homeless here. We have the most recent count, 1,400, but it's probably more than that. The count probably wasn't that accurate. But we think there's probably 20,000 people potentially, at risk of becoming homeless. So when you look at the dollars that we spend on someone, you have to look at it two ways. First of all, it's priceless. There's no amount of money that's not worth spending to save somebody's life, right? I mean, there is no question for that. You can't say, well, we're not going to spend that because it's going to cost too much, so we're just going to have to let that person go. It just doesn't work like that. We're not in this county. And so, but the other side to it is, and this is where the accountant comes in, it's a good return on our investment to invest in helping get these people off the streets. Because if you look at the dollars that are spent, all the services that are spent on trying to help these people, and then, the other side of it, dealing with the issues that are out there, the damage that is done, the arresting of people, the jail time, all of these things, when you look at all those dollars spent, I can tell you $1 invested in somebody to get them off the streets and get them back on their feet will come back to us 10 times in our community. And we recognize that. So there's two sides. There's the human side, which is the priority, but there's also a good return on our investment to the extent we can invest in individuals and get them back off the streets. Because that's our tax dollars that are spent dealing with all the issues that are out there for someone who's homeless. And if we don't have to spend that money anymore, we get the money back. We spend $1, we get 10 back. That's a good return as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Great question. We have a question over there.
I'm Pegasus with KCVP Radio. It's a new community radio station, 95.5. And my question is about public toilets and public showers. Any developments there for more of those?
So public, maybe as it pertains to where the city is allowing encampment to happen, and generally as well as referenced in the video.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we?
Does that mean like Bear Brook? Is that the question?
So you can address Beard Brook. I don't know if you know beyond that.
Yeah, Bear Brook is a temporary solution right now. So we do have porta potties and wash stations and trash bins and things of that nature there. But as far as if your question is about within the city, within downtown, or whatever, I'm not sure. I don't have that information.
You know, I know there's, first of all, just to promote the county, I think we're light years ahead of a lot of counties in California with what we're doing here. It might not seem like it, but we're doing great things. And there are good people in this community with the best of intentions doing a lot of good things. But what we started this whole focus on prevention was about bringing everybody together. There were so many different organizations out there that were a lot of times competing with each other, kind of falling over each other, trying to do the right thing, all with great intentions, but just not collaborating with each other. And there is an organization out there right now, the shower truck that's out there.
Right.
I saw a tour of that the other day. They pull up in front of, out there on Martin Luther King Drive in front of the King Kennedy Center. I think it's every Wednesday or once a month on Wednesday. I'm not sure how often they're there. But just for that reason, pull up, hook up to hoses and everything and provide showers, and everybody shows up there and gets showers. But those are the type of things. There are so many services that are out there that we've got to get coordinated. We've got to all get working together and pooling resources. You know, there are some great programs doing great things, and there's other programs that, again, all with the best of intentions, that are just failing. They just aren't doing well, but they're using resources. And the key, and what we hopefully are accomplishing through our focus on prevention and the stewardship council we've brought together, is to have people recognize what's working and what isn't working, and pool the resources to what are working, which means sometimes you have to shut down things that aren't working. And that's hard, you know. We're starting to talk about egos and programs and jobs and things. But if we really want to be successful, we need to have a coordinated, collaborative effort towards solving this problem. And believe me, we are getting there and accomplishing great things. It's never going to be fast enough, but we do have a great community of great people here. And this isn't just government. Government's just a small part of it. It's our community that's doing it. The government, we're great facilitators at bringing people together. And that shower program is a perfect example of a good program that's out there that we need to get more resources towards to help, because it does make a difference.
Great, thank you. And the shower shuttle is run by Dean Dodd, who was featured in our video that ran the Church in the Park. So, question over here.
Yes, my name is Sharon, and I'm wondering, while you were working on this process for the last 4 years, 5 years, how many other cities did you look at that had success programs, and what did they look like?
So the project, the Homeless in Modesto, only looked at Stanislaus County. I mean, very kind of specifically Modesto. But focus on prevention, I don't know.
I was thinking of the whole program, whether you were looking at other areas, other cities, what they were doing that was successful, because you talked about success, and that seemed to be how we could do the best we can. And whether you were, while you were doing all of this, whether you were looking at San Francisco or Salt Lake City or any of the other programs that are very successful.
So that's a great question, and we have, through this process, we're not too proud to steal somebody else's idea. If there's something else that's working, that's good. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. So we have spent a lot of time looking across the country at what's going on, and we have grabbed bits and pieces from different areas and success stories, and we followed all these. But I can tell you what we're doing different here is the community-wide effort, the collaboration. The focus on prevention is made up of 2 leaders from each of the main 10 sectors of our economy, of our community here. I know I'm not going to name all 10, but government and education are just 2 of them. But the faith-based, nonprofit, philanthropy, business, health, neighborhoods, media, arts and entertainment. I got those all 10 of them. That's still hope for me. So we have brought all those people into a room and asked them as a community to solve our problem. All of them are involved in one way or another in trying to solve these problems. But that's where we're back to the collaboration and the partnerships for everybody. So that's different than we've seen anywhere else in the country, where the community is involved. And like I said, we have a great community, and we have great people in this community doing good things. And we're just starting to coordinate them all now. And so, we look all over the country, and we continue to look for other areas. That's this downtown streets teams that we're talking about. We were trying to figure out what we were going to do and what would be a good work program to put. And instead of us trying to put one together, we're just hiring these guys that are coming in. It's going to probably be about $500,000 for us to do this. But we've got private sector money that's going to help pay for it. And they've already got a turnkey operation that will come in and just implement this downtown streets team. And it can be up and running, and it will be up and running within a few months here. So that's a great thing. The other thing I want to say is money right now is not a problem for us. As a result of what's going on in California, the unemployment, the homeless population across the country has gone up less than 1% last year. In California, it went up 14% last year. And we could talk all night about why that's happening, what's causing it. But because of that, there are dollars coming out of Sacramento, legislation that's, and we are in this next year we'll probably receive about $10 million coming from in the budget, out of the budget from the state legislation of Sacramento. And so that money is going to all flow, we hope, through and it talked about a little bit on the film, the community system of care, which deals with everything housing. And so we are working right now to try to restructure that committee to get some people who are elected officials on that committee, and along with all the community leaders, and we will then take that money and apply it towards our housing stuff. I know Barbara and I have spoken. There are some great opportunities out there for housing, and right now they're throwing money at us, which is a good thing. We just want to make sure we spend it wisely with good results again. So.
That coordination is the key word again. Thank you. Another audience question.
Hi, my name is Pat Eggenberger, and I volunteered at the shelter and with Family Promise, and I know people who work full-time and can't qualify for a place to rent because their salaries aren't high enough. And I think part of what we're dealing with is a global problem. There's a downward pressure on wages because of outsourcing. I don't know what we can do about that, but I know that when I was a young person working in San Francisco in 1959, I was able to support myself working part-time, and I've been close to minimum wage. So is there something we can do to, I suppose this is beyond what you're talking about here, but it kind of looms large over us, which is the world economy, and how the world economy has had a downward pressure on salaries. Salaries here are low, and rents keep going up.
I can speak a little bit to that. We have this trifecta thing happening here, especially in Stanislaus County. We have people coming over from the Bay Area, and we have people coming down from Sacramento. But something new in the last 3 years is that in our Eastern Sierra counties, they've had so many wildfires that we have people coming down to the valley and commuting. So we are where everybody has come to. A few years ago, we were looking, and if we implemented a payment standard for rents, we could find rental units or apartment for about 87% of fair market rent. I authorized about 6 months ago the highest payment standard our agency's ever used. Right now we're paying 110%. We're still not competitive. Coupled with that, about 3 years ago we started on construction projects, and we were getting bids at about $150 a square foot. Our most recent bids have come in at $250 a square foot, and that's in about a 2.5 year period. So you have nailed it, and what we've got to do is find different types of housing, different approaches. We've looked at modulars, we've looked at small houses, we've looked at zero lot line, we've looked at disassociating home ownership with land, with leased home ownership, that sort of thing. And so what we have to do, I'm horrible with sayings and metaphors, I mix them up, but the thing about don't keep doing the same thing if it's not working, or the definition of insanity.
We all knew that.
Like I said, anybody can mess up a metaphor, it's me. But the idea is you said we've got to be fluid and flexible. And we have to look at cost-effective approaches so that while we're continuing to do traditional housing, we need to pilot some programs on the side. And as Supervisor Withrow says, see what works. If it doesn't, abandon it quickly. But if we find something that works, let's go after it and try some new things. Because what's worked all along, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not working.
Great. I'd like to add something to that, because I think it was referenced earlier, and it was on the little mini video before the actual video. The last point in time count revealed about 1,400. That's probably underreported. But if you look at the survey, it also identifies those who took the survey, what they identified as what brought them into that experience. And the two top were they could not pay their rent or mortgage, or they lost their job. So so the economic variables are often not a part of the conversation as much as mental health and substance abuse is. And so if we look at those, it's kind of what you're talking to. If we had other housing options for those people, a stronger safety net, then they may not have experienced that.
Right, and we are seriously underserved in that area. During the housing bubble, when people were getting foreclosed on right and left, from Sacramento all the way down to Fresno and over to Alameda City and County and all of our housing authorities, all of our waiting lists were closed the entire time. Not one household through federal programs was able to be helped. And so we learned, well, that maybe the federal government hasn't, but locally we've learned a lesson that we've got to figure out some other options to where if people start to fall, we can catch them with a little bit of assistance rather than them having to lose everything. And so you've hit it right on the mark, because if somebody misses, if somebody's in Section 8 and they lose their job, then their rent goes down because their rent's dependent on income. But if you're paying a mortgage and you lose your job and then your unemployment runs out, then you lose your house. So we've got to look at different solutions, but that goes back to community collaborations, talking about it, facing up, and just trying to do something.
Yeah, great. Thank you. We have a question over here. Thank you for your patience.
Hi, mine is more of a comment than a question. We were talking about great people in this community doing great things, and I would like to praise two people, who is my sister and her husband, who open up their home every Saturday to feed the homeless, to let them shower in their homes. And it's just wonderful. We meet some great people.
That's wonderful.
A lot of people have gone a long way.
It's great. We applaud that.
Hi, I'm Corey Franklin. I'm an addiction counselor here in the community. The only part of this I really understand is the part about treatment, and those of my fellow addiction professionals here know that treatment can work as far as giving a person a new life, getting them out from under the mental problems that the disease brings, changing behavior. We've all seen miracles happen on a regular basis. My question, or really it's more of a comment, is I get calls literally every day, multiple times a day, from individuals who say they're ready to go to treatment. They're looking for inpatient treatment. Many of them are opiate addicts. Say always the question has to be, what kind of insurance do you have? And the answer is Medi-Cal. And at that point I have to shrug my shoulders and say, call the Salvation Army. Call Teen Challenge. I don't know why I can't say, yeah, there's a 3-story hospital behind the SRC that used to be called Memorial South. That's an inpatient treatment program that takes Medi-Cal, where you can get some decent treatment, stay for a while, get any other co-occurring needs that you have addressed, return to the community where you could start working and giving back. I wish I could say that. And maybe someone here can give me an insight as to why we can't fund and use that facility with some good staffers for inpatient treatment for our less fortunate. Thank you.
So another good question, and I can tell you that that it's something that we are working on very hard right now, because as a part of all of this, as we get people off the streets, we need to get them into treatment. And just like the housing, if we don't have houses, if we don't have the treatment facilities to get people into. So that old hospital building, Memorial South, is being used, it's not in good shape, but it's being used for stories. And I know that building very well. My dad actually went through alcohol treatment there back in the day when it was an alcohol recovery facility there. So, but we are, like you said, at the SRC, the Stanislaus Recovery Center there, we have that. We are looking to get more facilities that we'll be able to send people to. So we don't have that right now, but it's something that we're on. It's on our radar. We're working very hard to get more of those there.
I had seen the original viewing at the State Theater, and I had also heard they had said money is not a problem right now. We have lots of funds coming in, and I had come across an article in the Beat late August saying that if we were to declare a homelessness crisis, is that something that, and it said something about like if all 9 cities were to declare this, that we would be entitled to extra money or funds. Is that something that that Stanislaus County is thinking about doing?
In order to receive any of these funds, the recent funds, we have to declare a crisis, and all the cities will have to declare a crisis. So the Board of Supervisors was ready to do this a few weeks ago, and we decided we wanted to do it as a joint with all 9 cities and the Board of Supervisors. So we're asking every city to come up with and be a part of this, and we will declare. Otherwise, the funds don't come here. And so everyone, I'm sure, will make that. And it is a crisis. It's not something, we definitely have a crisis. And that's what we've tried to treat a lot of this. For example, the care team that we put together, when we put everybody together in a room once a week for 90 days, we met. And we treated this as if it was a crisis, just as if we had a fire, or if we had a flood, where you bring everybody together and you work for weeks to get through it. That's what we have here. And that's exactly how we're approaching this. So.
How do we participate in getting involved in making sure the money is going towards things that we support? Like there are some great ideas out there. Mm-hmm. How do we become part of that process? Like the low barrier shelter. I know Christy, you had mentioned, suggested going to the Board of Supervisors meetings and really being present there and making our concerns known. Do you have any other suggestions on what we could do to be more an active participant?
One thing I'd like to share is it was shared at the Board of Supervisors meeting when that discussion was happening around the 60-day window for the low barrier shelter, is that if community members had additional ideas other than the proposed location, which is the old hospital on Scenic, then to come forward. So that's an opening there. I'll defer to Supervisor Withrow.
I guess we, as far as the management of the funds, it's all going to flow through, for example, our community system of care will flow through there, which will have elected officials. So first of all, I guess we have to have some trust in our elected officials that they will manage the funds correctly. And so elections have consequences, and so I encourage everybody to be a part of that process to make sure that we have people there that are able to make the right decisions for all of us. As far as participation, that's why we have the 10 sectors involved in this focus on prevention. And the 2 leaders are supposed to go back to each one of their sectors. And I'll tell you the most potential we have is the faith-based sector. Everybody should go to church, but through the churches who are probably one of the most active in trying to help the homeless, there is so much potential there for us to get a coordinated effort there. And so there's so much opportunity for all of us within our churches to get involved and to try to help. And I can just tell you, for what I know, I'm not supposed to talk about this because I'm in government, but you'll find that most of the people that get off the streets, the common thread is God in their lives. And so, and that's just a fact. That's not it supports that. So I would encourage all of you who, if a sector that has the most potential and that is so untouched at this point, that as far as collaboration between all the churches, it's the faith-based sector. So
before I have our panel members share ways in which you can help coming out of this event, I would like to bring your attention to the handout that was given to each person as they came in, and then let you know that you can find out more about ways you can help, more about the organizations we've highlighted, and also additional footage. We captured 5 years worth. That was 60 minutes of that. So a lot of the testimonials we got doesn't make it in there. So if you're interested to learn more and hear personal stories, visit that website. And the next showing it's the same movie, but the next showing is going to be November 13th at CSU Stanislaus for our community members in Turlock. So now I'd like to ask each panel member to share what the audience should leave with tonight and what's your call to action to them based on your vantage point and capacity you serve. Anyone else? Yeah.
Basically, what I've heard tonight is really, really good. There's a lot of things that are evolving with the people that are actually involving themselves into homelessness. 5 years ago, there was none. There was really no action, no movement. There was a lot of burden down on us. What I see now is a little bit of light in the darkness that they see out there. And my story is due to not having the right tools in my life with family and all that, but knowing biblical things that I know now. That's what I'm sharing out there with people that are lost out there. Homelessness. And a lot of them don't even understand that it is something easy as going to church on Sunday. And they will have dynamic tools to use daily fights off the word of drugs and mental issues and alcoholism. Getting that, involving them with that stuff is one of the biggest things that can change them and take them out of the homelessness. Gives them a little more self-worth. Really big thing. It helped me.
Supervisor Withrow.
So I guess for a take-home, I was in the meeting, what do we take home from this for tonight? And I guess what I want everybody to walk away from here is thinking that there is hope, that there are good things going on in this community, and there is hope, and we're going to solve this problem. A lot of it, there are a ton of people in this room here right now that are a part of that are really making a difference, that are really, we say, moving the needle. And so I want people to leave here thinking that things are happening here in this county, that we are making headway on this progress. And it's because of a lot of you that are here that are doing this. And so there's hope. We are going to solve this problem. This is doable. We can fix this. And there's never 100% success, but we're making great strides here as a result of all of you and the work that you're doing and the work that we're going to do as we move forward here. And as we continue with our focus on prevention, we get involved in families and strengthening families, we will hopefully stop the flow of people becoming homeless if we're successful. We're going to deal with the people who are homeless right now, and we're going to work on preventing people from becoming homeless by getting involved in families and children's lives early on. So walk away here with hope and nothing else.
Thank you. Sergeant.
Well, as you can tell, this topic is a community issue. It's not a police issue mainly, but we do have our part in this process. So we definitely want to be part of the solution in this scenario, and we are doing our part. The care team is very passionate about helping people. These folks, outreach, engagement, and care, they probably do about 16 hours of work and 8 hours a day. And so the passion that this team has about, and the compassion about helping others, regardless of their situation, that's what's important to us, to the care team and outreach and engagement. So we'll continue to do our part. Thank you.
with our agency, we're continuing to work with everyone to try to get this situation resolved, to try to help families get into housing. But in the meantime, until we get more affordable housing, if you're a landlord or if you know of someone who's a landlord or agency, and several of our partners have subsidized programs where we can subsidize clients' rents. So if you're interested to work with our agency and our partners, we would really enjoy having that partnership to be able to get individuals and families housed.
And always the rebel down here at the corner. If you believe in something, you need to fight for it. Okay? You've got to fight for it. You've got to work for it. A few weeks ago, I got called on the carpet from HUD for serving people who weren't homeless enough. Now, I don't know what that means. And I told them, bring it, whatever. You have to sometimes stand up and you have to fight, but not with each other. We don't need to disparage or say that group isn't doing enough, this group isn't doing enough. We need to come together as a community and fight this, because this is something that we can address. We have the brain power, the heart, the passion, but you have to have the will to fight. I'll leave you on two good notes. One is that the Housing Authority found out just this afternoon that we've just received a few $1 million in funding to fund 56 low-income units in the city of Oakdale through a tax credit project. And then we found out that on the upcoming agenda for City Council, it looks like we'll be funded for 40 homeless units for our first truly homeless apartment complex. And I'm going to tell you, to do this, especially for the tax credit union, we had to fight and we had to compete with the big boys, and it took the county, City of Oakdale, NSP program, the county staff, the city staff, the planners, the Housing Authority, our nonprofit. So if you want it, and everybody here is serious, do like the ice cream business owner. Figure out what you can do, but you've got to fight, not with each other, but fight for this. It's important.
That concludes our evening, and just, I want to echo those sentiments. Don't let the conversation stop here. Let this be the beginning, or let this be the ongoing. Let it influence you. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you to our panelists for joining us and spending your evening here. And connect with us online, and have a good evening.